Mayor Prince is with us this morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa.
You, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. I had a most excellent one. I had to do a little driving out on those roads that were a little glare, a little slick out there, but I got to where I needed to go, so that was good. That was good.
Turkey? Saw you got the parade going, or the night we like going.
Yeah, tried to have a little fun with it this year because we were changing things up a little bit. There was no candy and giveaways and stuff like that, so I ran a little bit of a tribute to the Brian Setzer Orchestra.
There you go.
Yeah, if you're gonna sing Christmas carols, I think you should try to do it with a little style. I realize that's not for everyone's taste, but every now and then you gotta have a little fun. So yeah.
What, fun before you set a levy?
Yeah. There is that, isn't there? So we're gonna have a work session on that on Monday, and then we will actually have the final vote and setting of the budget on December 15th, which is somewhat ironic considering it's my birthday.
Oh, really?
So on my birthday, I will be at City Hall setting the property tax levy. What better way to celebrate another year? That no matter what that levy is, right, there will be people who won't appreciate it, and I get it, but we're in some challenging fiscal times when you have the federal government cutting funding and the state cutting funding. It rolls downhill, so to speak, and impacts
we're
everyone.
at the bottom.
And
Yeah.
well, if we're not at the bottom, we're near.
Right.
We're kind of like at the bottom of that jambalaya hot dish you were showing me.
Well, at least it had some
the very bottom of
sausage
that.
down there. There's a reward.
No andouille for us this year. Sorry. Ground up hamburger down there.
Glad I could give you some humor today, Mayor.
I did. I appreciated you sharing those photos with me because I took one look at that and I'm like, that's hot dish.
That's hot dish
hot
right
dish.
there.
Sorry. You call it whatever you want.
There was no cheese in it.
Okay, fair
No
enough.
hot dish.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It was. I would say it was closest to hot dish though, as it was to anything else. So,
Are we getting closer to narrowing down priorities for the levy?
yeah, I mean, I think it's like everything else. I expect staff to come to us with some options, and I think it's going to be along the lines of if you want the levy to be at the max, which would be 6% based on the preliminary, here's what that'll afford you. If you want it to be at 5%, this is what that'll afford you, and so on. And I think at that point, the council at the work session will have to make some decisions about how they feel about those things, including myself. And we'll have a week to think on it further and hear from citizens and all of those things. And then come the 15th, we'll set it. Now, the county got to jump on us, obviously, because they just did it yesterday. But when I'm setting the levy for the city, I'm always thinking about the other taxing authorities as well, because I realize as a property tax payer, it's not just the city levy you're paying. You're paying the county levy and the school district and the airport and a few others. And so when you add all that up, that's the total impact. So, ours gets added to everybody else. So at least for me personally, that weighs on me a little bit.
Well, it's a reflection of not yesterday, but last year before that, a little bit of today and tomorrow, but
Well, and the challenges you have is every year your labor costs go up, and that's to be expected. People get promoted, people get cost of living increases, everything gets expensive out there. As a city, we have 8 different unions we negotiate with, and those COLA or cost of living adjustments are in the contracts. And so if your tax base doesn't grow, if nothing else, your labor costs are going to grow. And so that puts you in a position where you either have to cut something to accommodate that labor growth, or you have to hopefully have increasing tax base to support it, or you have to raise taxes on those who are already here. Those are really the choices that are in front of you, or some combination thereof.
Why are there 8 different unions? That seems like a lot.
It is I think the police themselves have 3 different unions, if I remember off the top of my head, right? Because there's like a union for sergeants, there's a union for patrolmen, etc.
Oh, I see.
And how those all got started, I guess that predates me. by far, but they're all different bargaining units. Of course, you've got the Teamsters, and they're related to Public Works. The liquor store has a union, etc. So, I couldn't tell you how they all started, but every 3 years they're all negotiated with, and that was completed last year. So this was the first year of a new 3-year contract. And so, the good news is things are settled and you kind of know what they are for 3 years at a time. But when you go through that, there's a negotiation process, and we all know what inflation has done. So if you were negotiating on behalf of the employees you represented, you know that inflation has hit your members. You're going to be seeking corresponding increases if you're a good representative. So I get it. Those are the challenges that everybody's facing.
You negotiate with all 8 during the same year?
Yes, I don't
They're not-
personally.
right,
but
the city
yes,
does?
Yes.
They're not just spread out over 3 years?
No, they all cycle simultaneously.
Would not want to be a bean counter at that particular time.
Well, and it's usually pretty close to a year's worth of negotiation.
I suppose.
From when it starts to when it finishes. So, you're negotiating every 3 years basically, but you're kind of negotiating at the beginning of year 3, and then you get to your resolution by the end of year 3 typically, and then, so forth. So it's a pretty big responsibility on behalf of the city's administration. Usually that negotiation is led by the city manager on the city side. So it's a pretty big task, an important one.
We got a whole stack of papers over there.
I do, because if we were going to talk about things, I wanted to make sure I had the right information, because, like some of the stuff I've got here is related to solar projects
Wow.
that we greenlit a while back. And that was kind of interesting because we became aware of a pot of state money that somewhat needed to be exhausted by year's end. So applications were flying in quickly. And so 2 weeks ago, if I remember correctly, this came before the council, and we had the opportunity to apply for this funding for solar projects. So one of the projects that we applied for was a solar array that's going on top of the the water treatment plant at the airport. And the state funding that we applied for would cover 70% of the cost if it was awarded. At the same time, we were able to apply for some federal credits that would give us 30%.
Oh, nice.
So if we were successful on all of these projects, they would be 100% paid for by the state and the federal government, and then the savings that would result year after year would be the cities at no cost to us. So I commend staff for bringing this forward. But when you apply, you never know whether you're going to get it or not.
Right.
So one of those projects I mentioned was a project that was going to be on top of the water treatment plant. The other 4, one is at Fire Station 2. The other is at the Sanford Center, and then the Nielsen Reese building, and then the City Park Warming House.
Oh.
And so all together, about $750,000 in projects. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
So we already found out that we got the 70%. So that's good news. Now, will we get the other 30? I think we're going to know in the next 30 days. But if we get the other 30, pretty good deal. So even if it's 70%, that's pretty significant.
You're committed to the project regardless?
No. So we voted to on the water treatment plant. We did authorize that regardless, because we knew we had some backup with an otter tail program
Oh, cool.
potentially. So that one's for sure moving forward. The other 5 we authorized the application of, and once funding was sorted out, to be brought back to the council for a final vote. So we'll see where that one lands. But
Did you get the 70% for all of them?
yes, we did. We did. So, one of the big things at the Sanford Center is utility costs. So if there's a way you can positively impact that, hopefully at little or no cost to the taxpayer, that's a pretty good deal. Now, there will be a little bit of cost to the city, because some of these arrays are not roof mounted, they are ground mounted. So you might put up, say, a chain link fence around them,
Wow.
and that wouldn't be covered by the grant. But again, when you're talking about $750,000 worth of projects, and you got to put up some chain link fence, you're going to get that return on your energy savings easily within a few months, and you're good. So I like I said, I commend staff for bringing this forward and being able to move it. And when you typically apply for something from the state government, and within a few weeks you're getting 70% of the project, how often does that happen?
True.
You know,
Unless you're building
that's
a
the
road.
quickest I've
Dare
ever
I say
seen it.
never.
So to me, you know, that gives some indication of, you know, wanting to get this money out in the communities before the end of the year, as we were led to believe, because you don't typically see turnaround funding that quick. And for me, you know, whenever I look at solar projects or any major asset purchase, generally speaking, I try to see at max a 15-year payback. I think once you get back past 15 years, it gets risky. Because if you do a solar project and the payback is, say, 25 years, you have to start asking yourself, how much repairs and maintenance will I have over that time? Because that's going to dramatically impact your payback. And so, you know, everybody's got a different timeline. As a finance guy, when I look at things in my own company or in my own life, like 15 years is what I'm looking at. And it's interesting because, like, solar project warranties have grown a lot. These the specific vendor that we're using for these projects offers a 10-year warranty on their stuff, which is kind of cool because that's a pretty extended period of time. I know with earlier solar projects, you know, 5-10 years ago, you didn't have that kind of warranty. So, you know, if you get something paid for fully by the state and federal government, you're saving energy costs across the city, you get a 10-year warranty on it, it's a pretty good deal if it all falls into place.
How much more efficient are solar projects now, i.e., what percentage of the, let's just say, the Sanford Center's electrical usage can be garnered through solar?
This is a smaller project, so I see the one at the Sanford Center as maybe a bit of a test project to see how well it works and actually be able to compute what you're asking. Because this isn't a huge solar array that's out there. It's a smaller one to see what this kind of does.
All right, let's go with one of the bigger ones then.
I would say, you know, like I would think that the one at the water treatment plant might get you 20 to 30%, something like that,
Nice.
which is significant. But, you know, part of that is it's hard to totally compute that. And there's smarter people than me that could give you, you know, dial that in pretty well. But weather dependent. How much sun do we get in Minnesota? How is the project laid out such that snow doesn't stay on the solar? You know, this is all the stuff we're talking about because, you know, solar is weather dependent. You got sun, you got power. You don't have sun. And if you can tell me how many of those days we're going to have next year that I can throw into my formula, by all means. You know, last time I was here, I took the weather person spot, so... So, I mean, there's averages, obviously, to all of this, but it ebbs and flows a little bit.
20 to 30%, though, is higher than what I thought it would be.
Yeah, and that's my rough, using my thumb kind of thing. But, again, what's the energy needs? You know, that's kind of how this gets measured, too. Some of our facilities draw way more energy than others. You know, what's the energy need of a warming house versus what's the energy need of the Sanford Center?
True.
So, as a percentage, right?
What else you got working on?
Well, we talked about the levee, YMCA, and the railroad corridor.
That's a big mound of dirt right there.
Yeah, you know, that's all new fill that's been brought in. Last update I got, we had removed over 3,000 tons of contaminated material. Get your head around that.
Where does that go?
It goes to a incinerator, and not just any incinerator, right? These have to be approved by the MPCA and all of those kinds of things. And so it gets hauled off site. And at the same time, we still have to take down those buildings. So we got as much soil remediation done as we can for this year once the weather turned.
Wow.
The buildings should be going down between this week and next week. And once the buildings are down, that's it. Like, we're done till next year. And then we'll pick back up once construction weather allows us to do that. But, you know, even with the building stuff, you have to remediate the buildings for asbestos. You can't just knock those down when they're full of asbestos. So that was part of the work that was done there. But it's kind of exciting when you drive over there to see what's going on because, you know, this has been, I think, a dream for a while to renovate that corridor, to get that work done. And when you see trucks in there moving dirt and buildings coming down and that kind of stuff, it makes it all real. And so at the same time as that's going on, I was at a meeting, Greater Bemidji board meeting here recently, where the YMCA presented some of their architectural renderings of the YMCA proposed building. And, you know, depending on where this all lands, it's going to get close to 60,000 square feet.
Dang.
That's a lot of building. And obviously it's got aquatics, track, shared space for basketball courts, those kinds of things. workout equipment, all that kind of stuff. But when I was looking at this design, I was impressed with how much sunlight they built into this building. Like there's a lot of natural lighting in that, which I think is pretty cool. So just kind of seeing that, you see all the construction going on, you're seeing the architectural renderings, had a visit with Good Neighbor Properties, the hotel folks, and they're full steam ahead. So, we still have some things to figure out here. It's not completely done, but to see the project move forward like this at the end of the year is very, very encouraging, and I think the community should be excited. Hear a lot of people out there talking about it, so yeah, I think it's going to be good.
So I was just in Grand Forks last weekend for hockey. Drove past their YMCA. Now that building was there when I lived in Grand Forks 30 years ago. Looks like a strip mall.
Oh.
Does nothing for the aesthetics of a town.
This is not that building, I can tell you
Good.
that. Well, and when the child care piece of this comes in, and I think there's some debate based on fundraising, does that happen right away or does it happen down the road? But that would add another, 8,000-ish square feet is what I'm told. So now you're starting to, approach 65, 70,000 square feet. So, it's I think it's going to be a real community center, I think, when it's all said and done, as far as seeing lots of different folks from many walks of life there utilizing it. Also had a housing workshop that I was at yesterday. So the county, Sanford Health, and the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund commissioned a housing study for the entire county. So you might recall we did a housing study recently for the city, but this would be for the entire county. And they shared those results and had a workshop yesterday at the Sanford Center. And so I attended that and was a part of those conversations. And it's pretty interesting. The actual report is released and it's available to the public. I think it hasn't been put online yet, but it will be. And once that happens as a community, if you want to go see that, you can. It was done by Maxfield Research. But it identifies some interesting things. And there's a lot of data there. Like I need to really pull it apart because there was a lot there. But, it gives us more insight into our housing challenges.
Every month, the city puts out a report of rental permits and rental units. It's been very stagnant.
Yeah, it has been. And we have some more projects coming, but I think they're going to probably be next year. I know one of the things coming before the Planning Commission is the potential rebuilding of Red Pine. So that's a pretty huge deal. That could potentially bring up to 90 units back online, which would be huge. There are some other projects that are in the works as well. I actually spoke to some of those folks yesterday that are looking at apartment buildings in the city. So we'll see where all of that lands. But, our own housing study and the housing study that was done, by the county tells us that we're at least 1,000 units short. So, making progress 100 at a time is good. That's better than nothing, but we have a much greater need than that.
Oh, 1,000 units is 30%.
It's a lot.
What you've got.
It's a lot. Well, and it's not all rental, right? Some of it would be single-family homes as well. But, I think if we're going to make real headway in this, it's going to require a lot of partnership. And I think that's one of the things that we were talking a lot about yesterday, public-private partnerships, but also just partnerships amongst legislative groups. If you use a tool like tax abatement, which basically says we're not going to change your property tax on this building if you improve it or build a new one or whatever for X period of time to help fill the gap between what it costs to build and what you can charge for rent. Well, if the city does tax abatement, we're one small part of the property tax bill, as we talked about earlier. There's a slice there that's the county, slice there that's the school district, etc. So you have a lot more power if all your taxing authorities come together and say we're going to do abatement for X period of time versus one of us doing it. Well, that's one way you could partner amongst entities to help make that happen. But ultimately, you still have to have a developer. Who's a developer? And what partnerships can you strike there? And that all ties back to other things as well, because it's not like a silver bullet. Money and costs is a concern, but so is planning and zoning, what you can build, what are the setbacks, how much parking is required, like all of that stuff. So we're in the middle of reviewing our comprehensive plan as a city, which we do once every 10 years. And we're getting to that point where there'll be the opportunity for a lot of public input. And so I'm encouraging people to be very active in that, because all of our ordinances flow from the comprehensive plan. So basically, your comprehensive land use plan says, here's how we want to use the land in the city for development and growth in the future. And then all of your rules roll up underneath that. Well, you can't have rules that conflict with the goals of your comprehensive plan. So this is our opportunity as a community to really kind of dream about what do we want to see in the next 10 years and then make sure our ordinances are in alignment with that. And if we have determined that housing growth is a critical need in our community, which I believe is true, what are we going to do to support that through our ordinances? I think that's a valid question. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. But now is the time to act. And so I'm encouraged that we've got data. We've got an opportunity to address some of these things right now in front of us. What will we do with it?
Excellent. Does that cover all your papers there?
It never does, but you only have so much time here for me. I'll just throw one last shout out there. We did get a $450,000 federal earmark to renovate Fire Station 1.
Oh, wow.
And that was a
Justin
good thing.
Sherwood, pat yourself on the back. I know you're not going to, but didn't he find a lot of this?
They are always coming to us every year for federal earmarks. So on this one, I know he and our city manager worked on it. But we always have the opportunity. But you're right, somebody's got to put together the case.
Good deal.
This is massively overdue, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we have a situation over there that, we built a fire hall back in the 80s that didn't consider a diverse workforce. And so, if you're a female firefighter, you don't really have your own privacy over there. I mean, they make do and they do the best they can with the situation. But in a world where the workforce is getting more and more diverse and you don't have the ability to recruit because you say, well, you can come work for us, but we're living in 1985 over here, that isn't very appealing. So not only is it the right thing to do for those who are already here, it's another tool that helps you modernize and be able to make an attractive case when you're trying to bring new firefighters to your town. So hopefully that'll get done here in short order. I know it was approved and placed in the budget. It was waiting to be passed by the House, and once that happened, those funds would be available. So that was good news.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we'll see you after the new year.
Fa la 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 la, and then when I come back, you'll be like, "Why was the levy set at whatever percentage?" and Schultz will say, "Whatever that was, it was too high. There should have been a negative in front of it." So I'm gearing up. I'm already ready for you.
You know me well.
I do.
Well, you have a good Christmas and happy holidays.
Yeah, you guys too, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas to the community too.